Hi, hello, welcome to my second Vlogmas video. This will be the 11th? It'll be the second Sunday. That's all that matters. Matters? Meow. I'm Kat, I'm 26, I'm non-binary, I have 2 partners, 3 cats, and I live in Northeast Florida, not Jacksonville, slightly south of that. And today, I don't know if you can hear it, probably headphone users can. I have the kettle on, waiting for my cup of tea, because I originally was going to have a purely decorative cup of coffee on my festive little coaster. And then I realized that that would probably wind up being really, really bad if I reached over and like took a swig of ice cold coffee from 8 o'clock this morning, and it's now probably about noon. If my hands appear stained, I don't know. My hands are stained, it's ink. I was doing some paper crafting this morning for my original channel, which is really funny that like paper crafting is a much newer like hobby for me, but it's the older channel. Oscar's been really suspicious the last couple of days. Well, not suspicious, naughty. He's peed on the bed like 3 or 4 times in the last week. Yeah. And no one is listening to me about what my suggestions to fix the problem are. But that's fine, that's fine. Also, I realized earlier that I have exactly 5 Christmas tops. 3 t-shirts and 2 store-bought sweaters. So I guess that means, because I'm planning on doing 5 like winter Christmassy Yule-y videos, that you will wind up seeing all 5 of them and you won't have to see any of them more than once. So that's fun. I should probably go get the kettle now. And then I can set my tea over here to brew and I can finally actually talk to you about everything. So today's tea is Victorian chai from the Spice and Tea Exchange. I know that they started here in the town that I am in, but I'm fairly certain they're like literally everywhere, and you can totally grab it off the internet. Victorian chai and Iron Goddess of Mercy are my 2 favorite teas from them that are year-round teas. They do like seasonal, so like quarterly tea. I'm still covered in glue. Anyway, they do like quarterly limited edition teas, and I pretty much always like at least one of them. Like right now, if they've put out their winter ones, I have not been back to the shop to pick them up, but from their fall line, the Cider House blend was my favorite one. So this one's gonna go over here on the coaster, and I'll probably also have to get up to go put either milk or creamer in it, because chai needs milk. And if anyone tells me otherwise, that chai does not need milk, what are you smoking? Anyway, so the way I have what we're going to talk about today written down in all of my notebooks is made and making Yule gifts. So we're going to start with everything that's finished, and then we're going to move to what is not finished. So currently today is Wednesday the 7th, which means that I still have a little bit over a week to finish what needs to be mailed out, and then 2 weeks to finish what needs to be done for my friends or my partners here in Florida. And then I don't know if my friends are like the friends that I'm making gifts for are coming up before then or like in January. I don't know what they're doing. So I'm gonna start with the thing you guys saw me working on at the beginning of last week's video. So this is, it's not as big as I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be a schlanket, but It's still pretty big. If I'm honest with you, I have no idea how to wear shawls. But I see a lot of people wearing them like this, like scarves. So I'm gonna put it on like a scarf. So what this is it's like entirely self-drafted, honestly. The only thing I took from another pattern was specifically I used Stephen West's I-cord tab cast on to cast this on. And then I kind of went on my merry little way with the rest of it. So it is a asymmetrical, you start at the skinny end, keep increasing until you run out of yarn, triangle shawl. It is made with Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash Worsted in the colorways Coal, Columbine, and Red. And I have 2 balls of each. And I think in a perfect world I would have grabbed 3 balls of each. And maybe 4 of the black, because for the cast off, because I did do an I-cord like cast off bind off as well, probably would have grabbed an extra skein of the black. Because I wound up having to hold 2 strands of Patton's Croy socks in coal together to bind off, because that was the only other black yarn I had on hand. So yeah, this is for the family priest. Bear, as you potentially know, depending on like how long you've been around, my family is not, we're like Norse pagan-ish. Wow, my face looks really interesting with this shawl on. This totally still needs to be washed and like blocked. And like, he would not be mad about me wearing it, so like, don't get your panties twisted about it. Sorry, cats are being suspicious. What was I saying? Yes, so he's one of the people that like taught me how to knit. So technically speaking, my grandmother taught me how to knit when I was like 5 or 6, perhaps even younger than that. But I really didn't care. She taught me how to crochet as well. She does much more crochet than knitting. And I think that might be because of the way her arthritis works, is the crochet is more comfortable. Not entirely sure, I haven't asked her about it, but she, generally speaking, prefers to crochet. So Bear, when I was about 10 or 11, he gave me several like big Rubbermaid totes of his, like, that was his mother's stash from like the 70s. So I got a whole bunch of like very scratchy acrylic, decidedly 70s colors, and the hollow aluminum straight needles in like 1,000 different sizes. And it was just so much fun. So this had to be like the pinnacle of like what I thought was an excellent showcase of my skills, because I just, you know, I needed to make him something really special and really nice, because like if he hadn't given me those like 3-4 totes of his mother's yarn, I would not be knitting, like not at all. So did I mention I don't know how to wear shawls? So this is where I cast on. Oh yeah, that's the right side. So this is where I cast on, and what I did was, here, let me pick a section that has slightly less. So I increased in the first like column, increased in the first column of brioche. I increased so that it went from being 1 column of brioche to 3 columns of brioche. And for the next 2, so for a total of 3 increases, I kept it in the same spot. And so every 4th, I moved it back to the first one. And what I did was, Kronk, unhelpful. Don't get behind it. So what I did, stop it. Okay. So then what I did with the color specifically, oh, and there is an I-cord edge on it. So what I did with the color was I took each color and divided it in half. Ultimately what I should have done was just tie some sort of easy to take out knot in the halfway point, so 25 grams, because the wool of the Andes is a 50-gram ball each. So I should have just tied some knot, but I cut it apart because apparently I hate myself and I want to cause myself to have more ends to weave in. Gronk is now behind the tapestry. And so every time I hit that halfway mark, so 25 grams, I would switch the order. So here it's black on top with purple in the back, and then we switch, so it's purple on top and black in back, and then purple stays on top and we switch the black to red, and then we switch here, it's red on top, purple in the black, and then red on top, black in the back, red on top, black on top, red in the back. And I feel like it looks better from this side, but because of the nature of brioche, it is technically reversible. So this is what it looks like from this side. So it looks a little bit more stripey and a little bit less fade-y on this side, which because after I realized kind of the way I was moving the colors around while I was writing it, I did also kind of do the math to figure out how to make this color work with several different pride flags. So potentially, if I can either A, figure out a different cast on that works just as well, or B, figure out if the I-cord tab cast on is like free game, fair to use, like just credit me kind of thing. And I'm sure that I could just say, oh, I-cord cast on, and then like lots of people will use the I-cord tab cast on because it is so much better than other I-cord cast ons I've used before, but I might write it up as a pattern. There's also a couple of different variations of where the increases could be that I want to try out before I do that. Like one of them, I would like to see what the shape becomes if I keep it in this original line here, just all the way across, like how that shape would happen. And I'd also like to see how the shape would happen if I kept all of them in the first one. So yeah, there is Bear's shawl. That's probably, the name of it is probably going to wind up being like Bear Star Shawl or something like that. Yeah. And also, oh, there, and you can see the asymmetricaliness of it there. A bit. Okay. So there's that. The children have brought me a gift. Next we have these socks for my dad. These are, I know that I used someone's pattern to get like a stitch count for the size, for the ease and whatever, just because I didn't really feel like doing the math on it. But this is Loops and Threads Perfect Pair in Dancing in the Dark, and they are not perfectly matched but pretty damn well matched, and I believe we wound up with 84 stitches, and I did these on, I meant to do them on ones, but I wound up doing them on zeros, and I significantly prefer the fabric this yarn creates on zeros to ones. So the next 2 pairs I also did on 0. So, or well, I'm doing. So this one's for my little brother. He prefers shorter socks than my dad does. This one, I cannot recall the name, but I know that I've made myself a pair of socks in these, and I didn't mind the like heelless spiral socks, the heelless spiral tube socks. Williams are 80 stitches because I wanted to use a 6x2 rib along the top of the foot. And then 2x2 at the cuff, and I want it because I like it when if you're doing a ribbed sock, the whole thing is ribbed if the ribbing flows nicely from the cuff to the rest of the body. It's a fishlets kissed heel. Dad's is a heel flap and gusset. Yeah. Dad's I did cuff down, and Williams I did toe up because I prefer toe up. I also did them 2 at a time until one of my needles broke, which was like here. So like we were like half an inch, 5 rows past the being done with the heel, and I screamed. It made me so angry. So that's that. Oh. Let's keep on with socks. Okay, so these are another pair made in Loops and Thread Perfect pair. These are the Jaywalker socks, and this is the pink Cadillac colorway, and this is for my friend Angel. I fucking love the Jaywalker pattern. I love the way these look. I bought myself a second skein of this yarn, and will probably be making myself this exact pair of socks because I'm a little bit bummed that they're going to him. And if you're wondering why the foot's so small, it's because me and him wear the exact same size shoe. That's it. So this is my size of foot. And on Dad's and Williams, I did not color control at all. On Angel's, though, I did color control. So if you look right here, after the heel, after I'm done with the gusset, it goes right into the light pink on both of them. The amounts of dark pink are different on the gusset there, or heel turn. That part's the heel turn, but it still keeps the colors approximately the same. So this was the one I did second. I know that for a fact. This was the second sock, and this was the first sock. Okay, and now because we're at Angel, we're gonna stay with Angel. So this was, I believe, a skein of Rowan felted tweed I found at the thrift store. I want to get a pom-pom for it. This is the Barley hat by Tin Can Knits. But I put in the seed stitch, the knit 1 purl 1, but I did it so like 2 knits and 2 purls stack on top of each other. I don't remember what the name of that one actually is, because like it's like seed and double seed and moss and double moss, and it's ridiculous. So I knit the hat, and I was like, there is enough left over for me to get gloves, I swear. So these are the Maze Mitts by Tin Can Knits. You'll notice that they are significantly shorter and smaller than like the pattern suggests. I did also use a tubular cast on and a tubular bind off for these guys. So they are really, really, truly just like the palm of your hand, the palm of his hand. I don't remember which style of tubular bind off and tubular cast on and bind off I used. Well, I used a sewn bind off, of course. But I don't remember if I used like the one where you actually knit a tube or if I used the Italian. So there's that. I need to find a pom-pom for the hat because I feel like this hat looks a bit weird without a pom-pom. But like last I was at Michael's, I didn't see any pom-poms. So I don't know if Michael's has pom-poms anymore. And then we'll go to Elizabeth. So this is the Gothic Lace Cowl. Again by Tin Can Knits. And this is the Loops and Threads Impeccable in charcoal tweed, I believe. So basically, what I wanted to do is I wanted their pieces, because they're married, to match, but not. So I wanted to find something that had rainbowy flecks, but was black for her. And I couldn't find anything that was wool, because, I don't know, Rowan felted tweed is discontinued, from what I understand. And I couldn't find anyone like destashing or like just selling. Yeah. A black, if there even was a black originally for Rowan felted tweed. So it wound up being this one. I do have 2 more skeins of this yarn, and I plan on putting this lace onto a pair of fingerless mitts. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I haven't gotten that one started, so I don't feel too bad about not waiting till the like in progress portion. I also still need to find buttons for this. I wanted red, I think, but I have not been able to find the right size and the right shade of red. And then we have for Nar, we have some non-binary flag socks. Very fun. So this is Patton's Croix Coal, the black. And then 2 knit crate yarns that I cannot recall the name of. And then Knit Picks Hawthorne Golden Compass. And I didn't have a true white, so I wound up using a white with pink flecks. I don't think it's gonna bother him in the slightest. And then this is the Puffy Poof Hat by Jessie May Designs. I believe that this is Lion Brand Thick and Quick in the colorway Galaxy. It's a really deep red purple with like pinky purple glitter, and then I have a pink pom-pom, and the pom-pom does have a button. These are the elastic band pom-poms that Michael's had a couple years back. So that is everyone there. And then, so this is getting into my mom. So this is, not entirely sure if she's gonna like it, but I do, if she does, I plan on tracking down another one of these and knitting her socks and fingerless mitts with it. This is Knit Picks Stroll Forest Heather and Patton's Croix Clover colors, and it is the sock head hat pattern. On the fence about getting a pom-pom for this one. I feel like because it is a slouchier pattern, it should have a pom-pom, but maybe, maybe not. Again, for my mom, because this was mom's year to get a sweater. So this is the Flax by Tin Can Knits, and I swapped in, instead of the garter stitch, the rice stitch. This was a bitch and a half to figure out how to do in the round rather than flat, because I could not find instructions for it anywhere on the internet. And then this is Plymouth Yarns Encore Color Spun in the colorway Drifting. I cannot recall if I used 5.5 or 6.5 skeins, but I used up every last inch. I'm a little bit bummed because I kind of wanted to make like the teeny tiny little sweaters that like are all over, you know, everyone has a pattern for small sweaters, for mini sweaters. I kind of wanted to knit mini sweaters out of the leftover yarn of both Mom and William's sweater. to put on the Christmas tree. So like each year that I knit a sweater for someone, after I knit the sweater, I knit the ornament from it. So I have like miniature record of all of the sweaters. But I don't have a brain. But I also embroidered her initials in the back of it in the white, because I did do the short rows shaping to make the back higher than the front. Then for the Goblin King, another puffy poof hat and some Lion Brand scraps that I thrifted. I basically only know that they're Lion Brand because the Lion Brand Thick and Quick is very recognizable, you know? So it's showing up very like true gray, but it's very blue gray in person. I don't think he'd like a pom-pom on it. I don't even know if he's gonna like the hat, because so far the only thing that I've knitted him that he has actually worn are the socks. So. Alright, so I have one more finished, and then the rest is in progress stuff. Oh my gosh, running away from me. Okay. So, this one's for my grandmother, and this is, again, the Barley by Tin Can Knits, except I believe this one's the double moss, because it's knit 2, purl 2, with 2 knits and 2 purls stacked on top of each other. I believe this one's double moss. We've got a pom-pom, it's got a button in there. I did twisted rib. Yeah, I did twisted rib on both this one and the one for Angel as well. And this is a Karen cake. I don't know which one, because it was given to me after the band was taken off and it was re-rolled into a ball because my roommate apparently has something against cakes. Or, well, the roommate at the time had something against cakes. And then I also made the maize mitts for my grandmother. Oh yeah, you can see that really well on screen. So, a problem I've discovered. I also did this because I feel like this stitch pattern bumps up too much. I did it to where they're like directional, so that's just stockinette on the palm side. One of the problems I noticed after I knit this was that I think at some point, if you can tell, there's 1, 2, 3 colors in the hat. It's a medium blue purple. It's almost exactly the same shade as the pom-pom, which might be why you can't quite tell that it's there. I think after I made the hat, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. That's all I want to make, Gran. And I might have used this purple for something else, because we were all the way in this, we were like in this one. I think we had honestly just started it, or we were about halfway, a little bit over halfway through. So if you look, whole glove and then the cuff on this one before we switched to another color. So I realized that the hat and the gloves don't really match, even though they're from the same cake. So now I've got about this much left from the yarn, and this dark color goes into the light color immediately after. So I think it might not be the tallest version of the cowl, but I think I might do the cowl oats out of this, so all of it matches and makes sense. So there's that. And here's the rest of the yarn for Elizabeth, for Liz. Then I have the socks I'm working on for my grandfather. I'm only doing them one at a time because, again, as I said, I like the way this yarn works up. The fabric it creates better on zeros, and I broke one of the zeros I had bought specifically for doing 2 at a time. I'm doing the spiral rib tube sock and I went from 2x2 at the cuff to 6x6 on the rest of it. And part of the reason why I initially wanted to try the spiral rib tube sock pattern was because one of the podcasters I watch, Kiko's knitting podcast, she at one point in time was doing this pattern like all the time, and she was using opal, and that's a self-striping, self-patterning, and it was doing this really cool effect where the stripes all looked kind of slanted and jagged, which I did not get on my version of these, which was a 4x4 rib moving it one stitch over every 4 rounds. This one is a 6x6 rib moving it one stitch over every 6 rounds. It's almost doing it. So now I think that I need to try this with one that is specifically self-striping and not necessarily self-patterning. So there we are. We're about, I just started the 4th repeat of the color pattern here, and I think I was going to go to 6 of them and then measure how long it was, because I think if my grandfather wears a size 12, that means that his foot's about 11 inches, and then if I want the sock to go about 6 inches up, that's 17 inches. But because of the ribbing and the way the sock moves, I need to account for like negative ease from this way turning into negative ease lengthwise turning into negative ease widthwise. So I'm explaining it badly, but I do know what I'm trying to say to you. Basically, if you knit the sock really long but really narrow, it can go over a wide foot, but it'll just look shorter. So, in order to get... Anyway, I think I needed the sock to be about 20 inches. So, I really need to get on this. And that is, okay. So the gloves I can totally do, like one glove an afternoon. This is probably going to be taking up all of my time. And then the cowl may or may not actually get done before mail out day, which is the 15th. So now we are on to gifts that don't need to be bailed. So that is for the wife, the husband, Sam, and Sam's husband. Sam's husband is like technically a gift, but also technically not. Technically, Sam is commissioning me to make a lightsaber for her husband, because I made a lightsaber for my Christmas costume, my Halloween costume, and then never wore it. And she's like, oh wow, that's super cool. He'd fucking love it. And you know what? Sith enablement. So this is a shawl I've been wearing in the bed a lot recently because I've been cold, so cold. Got a ripped up bit of paper. Don't know why that was in here. It's because everything's in this bag, honest to God. That is socks for myself. Okay. So, why is this here? I don't know why this is here, but this is leftover yarn from a couple of pairs of socks I've knit the wifey. Yeah, that's probably actually enough to be the contrasts on something. So that can go in there. So this is Pat & Croy's Cadet colors, and I'm gonna make the husband's favorite socks with this. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like I had originally had Pat & Croy Gentry Gray set as a contrast, but I think I might be not doing a contrast. I do have 2 skeins of that as well because he has a larger foot and therefore needs more yarn for his feet. Yes. Making a mess. Okay, so these are leg warmers for the wife. Because she is maybe a little bit one of those girlies that's kind of addicted to like window shopping on Cider and Shein. So there it is, 2x2 rib with 6x2 rib. It is some random, very fuzzy yarn I found at the thrift store. I am fairly certain that this is Knit Picks Reverie in the bear colorway, or whatever the off-white colorway was before they like discontinued it, and now it's just, you can only get it in the bear, but I think it's the same color. So if I wanted to make her more things in this, I'm pretty certain that that one would work, or at the very least it would look similar enough to where that if I knit her the leg warmers, so I've got this one and then I've got the other one like just started, that's like 3 or 4 rows of the 2x2 rib. And then this is what I have left over from this ball, this size ball, from making this. So I might be able to make her fingerless gloves in this yarn, or I might not. If not, then I don't know. I feel like the leg warmers will be enough. They'll be standalone. They'll be like enough on their own because she already has a white hat, and I think the off-white down at her like leggies with the true white at her head will be fine until I can get a hold of the bear Reverie, because even if it's not the same yarn, I have the feeling that it's going to look the same enough once worked up. Then that is something I shall not talk about, because if I do, I will have lots of awkward questions, and I don't feel like fielding awkward questions. So this is here, again for the wife. This is Sorella, my first holiday sweater, but it looks really whack because I'm using thrifted yarn, because I almost always use thrifted yarn. So what the gray yarn is Red Heart with Love Chunky in the pewter colorway. Sorry, got a notification, had to make sure it wasn't anything important. And then it is Bernat Velvet Twist or Twisted, I don't remember. And I also don't remember what colorway it is, but it's blue and green. And it is a bottom-up colorwork yoke sweater. And as you can probably tell, that's very, very cropped there. So what I did was a whole bunch of math. So she has both the like full length version and the cropped version. So I did my gauge, and then I looked at how many inches / rows she said for everything. So I took out the ribbing measurement from the body and the sleeves and knit that with a provisional crochet provisional cast on. And now I need to get on with the color work. Oh, actually, you can see that pretty well. I was really worried that you couldn't see it, but you can actually see that pretty well on camera, so that's nice. So that I could just, because I am a top-down bitch, like top down or get out of here. I've discovered that after this one and a couple of other sweaters that I've knit, sweaters and tops, mostly the Jessie May tops that I've knit. So my little secret crop, the one that's ribbed, not the one that's stockinette, the bralette that I have, like I'm still gonna knit from her like stuff, because all of her patterns are great. But given the choice, because I do use thrifted yarn so often, top down or toe up or whatever is probably the best for me, so that I'm working from the terminal end, you know? So the end that absolutely has to be there, I'm working away from it. So basically gonna work up to the collar, gonna do the collar. I'm gonna do the collar in gray. And then depending on how much yarn is left, I will most likely, what I will wind up doing is going in and going back to the body to make the body full length, because I think she'll be fine with like 3/4 bracelet length sleeves. And then doing the body and sleeve ribbing in the velvet, because I'm going to have a lot of the velvet left over, and then potentially knitting a hat in the velvet as well, just for shits and giggles, because I think that'll look cute. Then let me grab the lightsaber I made myself, because I'm probably going to make the one I'm making for him like pretty much identical, except instead of pink as the accent, it's gonna be red. So here it is. It's a bit flaccid. We're not gonna talk about it. The only part that's like hard is the like base where I started, because I put a little bit of cardboard in there, and I had originally intended on putting like little discs of cardboard every couple of inches, and then completely forgot because I made this the Sunday before Halloween. But yeah, so it's very simple. Given the chance, I would totally make myself like something really cool, very much like this. Considering that this is the first time I've ever thought about like what my lightsaber would look like, I think it's decidedly plain but also unique enough. So I will definitely be changing some things for his, for T's, but yeah, it's a tube with some surface crochet that was a pain in the ass. It's done in fingering weight as well, because that's the only yarn that I had the colors I wanted to use. Yeah, this one, I want to see if I can do it, because I feel like I'm gonna hate it, but I feel like it'll also look pretty cool. So Sam likes yellow. She's like the only person I have ever met who genuinely likes yellow. So this is Loops and Threads Chanel Home in the colorway Mustard. And I have this full skein and then most of a skein because I used it to make a sun. And I thought I needed significantly more, a sun pillow, and I thought I needed significantly more yarn because I thought I was going to do gold stars too, but I decided that I only wanted silver stars and moved on. So I have this, so I'm gonna see if I can make the puffy poof hat with this yarn. I feel like I'm gonna hate it because I kind of hate working with velvet yarn. It might be that I hate crocheting with velvet yarn, if I'm honest. So that's everything. I really need to go get on it. Specifically the socks and the gloves. So I'll see you next time. I did not drink any of my tea. It's probably overbrewed and cold. All right, see you later. See you next week. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you are doing plenty of winter holiday festive nonsenses.